Hello and welcome to World Talks with me, Ashim Kumar. A multi-billion-dollar luxury resort backed by Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is facing a mounting controversy in Albania. The project involves disputed land, environmental concerns and allegations that a businessman linked to the deal may have falsified property documents. It also raises wider questions about Trump's influence in the Balkans. Joining us is James Ker-Lindsay, visiting professor at the University of Kent. Professor, welcome to TVP World. Thanks for taking time.
Thank you very much. Glad to join you.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, so what's going on? What exactly is this Albanian businessman accused of?
Well, I mean, essentially, the entire story just revolves around the fact that you have Trump's daughter and her husband who have tried to buy this land in Albania, which is in a protected area. And this is a huge deal. I mean, it's suggested they paid $120 million for the land, but the ultimate project is to build a multi-billion-dollar project resort on this island. But what has made it even more complicated is that this is in a nature reserve. So people have been incredibly unhappy about it. And now we have these allegations that the businessman that they have been working with, there's been some shady dealings in all of this. So what has actually been a very murky project all the way through is now becoming even murkier. And this has led to all sorts of problems for the government in Albania as well.
Well, can you be more specific? What shady dealings specifically were there between Jared Kushner and this Albanian businessman who sold them the land?
Well, I mean, I think, obviously we have to be very careful about all of this. And I don't think either you or I would want to find ourselves at the wrong end of a legal proceedings on this. But it's certainly there have been allegations that this hasn't been done through the proper means. There have been all sorts of allegations of corruption, and many would assume that, certain officials probably would have been taking payoffs in all of this. So I think it's probably safe to say that overall, this entire project from start to finish has been something that many people have felt incredibly unhappy about. And it is to say, it has snowballed into wider unhappiness with the state of the government in Albania.
Right. Well, I mean, the allegations, so far as we can see, are against the owner of this land, or the person that sold Kushner the land, that he forged documents, and therefore, he wasn't really the owner, and that really is the crux of this problem. But he lives in the United States, and this thing is going to go through the courts. It'll take its course. Now, until that is cleared up, of course, Kushner can't do anything, can he? He can't build the resort or move forward on anything else, can he?
Well, here you get into other territory, of course, because, one of the other problems. So, all right, I think we have to bear in mind that Albania is, of course, is now actually fairly advanced in its talks to join the European Union. And one of the things that would have taken place during the process of EU accession is that legal reform, judicial reform is a fundamental part of it. So one would hope that now that legal proceedings are taking place, that a lot of scrutiny will be taking place on this, that there will be ways to try and stop this. But I think this also becomes a fundamental litmus test for just how effective those reforms in Albania have been. Are there ways that, for example, environmental groups will be able to challenge this? Can we be sure that, the proper paperwork has been done on all of this? So I think, what has been rather scandal-driven all the way through is also going to be watched very, very closely in Brussels as an example of whether Albania has made many of those crucial and critical reforms that countries are expected to be able to make in order to join the European Union.
Yes, certainly. I think it's worth pointing out, of course, that the Kushner family has not been accused of anything specifically, although, as you say, reforms are taking place in Albania, and the EU will be watching closely. Now, I'd like to talk about the environmental impact. Certainly, it's a flamingo reserve. Are there any protective elements around this deal to make sure that that reserve isn't disturbed?
Well, I will be honest to know that, I'm not entirely clued up on the specifics of the deal. I think this is part of the problem, that everyone is arguing they're not entirely clued up to the specifics of the deal. And this is why so many people are unhappy, because they feel that it hasn't been done transparently, that we don't know the exact details on this. This is meant to be a nature reserve. I think people feel very unhappy that anything would have been done there. But it has raised this question. And this is not just the problem that you see in Albania. I think this is a problem that we see all across the Balkans, that deals are done, that there aren't the adequate safeguards in place to make sure that it's all above board, that in this case it is people feel very, very unhappy about the fact that any sort of development is taking place there. But also it's not only that whether the exact details are put into a contract to say, look, you will do X, Y, and Z, because people then feel, well, can we be sure that that will actually happen? Because all too often what you will see happen is people will just go ahead, do what they want, and then later say, oh, mea culpa, I'm sorry, and maybe pay a fine. But at that point, the damage has been done, and there is no way back from it. So I think, again, the whole point about this deal, which has upset people, is that it hasn't been done transparently. There are so many questions about it, and that this has fed through, as I say, into popular anger at the Rama government in Albania.
Certainly. I mean, what may or may not happen in the future, it has, by its very nature, to be speculative. But it must also be said that a resort like this would provide economic benefits in terms of employment and bringing, tourists into the country, which Albania sorely needs. What would you say to those people?
Well, I think, and that is the counter to this, that people would say, look, Albania is a country which has had a very, very difficult history. It had a particularly extreme form of communism. Then you saw, after the fall of the communist regime, that in actual fact there was a period of utter turmoil in the 1990s. This was the country that effectively collapsed. There was a Ponzi scheme, an investment scheme, which essentially brought the country to its knees, led to a massive economic crisis. The country has taken many, many years to try and improve itself. And many would credit Edi Rama, to be fair, with having done that. He has utterly transformed Albania's image on the international stage. He is very well liked, respected by other European leaders. And he would make the argument that, yes, this is something that would put Albania on the map, that Albania wants to have close relations with the US government, and Donald Trump in particular, and that all this will ultimately serve Albania. But the fact is that you've got the first family interested in investing. This can only be for the good of the country. And I think there will be many people who would be sympathetic to that. But of course, there are also a lot of people who still argue that, look, that may all well be the case, but there are the ways that you do this, and is this actually affecting Albania's fundamental natural resources in a way that is going to be ultimately harmful?
Well, I think, Professor, those are questions we shall have to wait to see the answers to. Thank you very much for sharing your analysis with our audience, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. And that brings us to the end of this episode. Don't go away, lots more coming up. Goodbye.